Hello everyone, I am, as always, Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie. Now, since I'm hoping this will get funded, I'll have to assume that most of you don't really know who I am. Might have been recommended by other channels, who knows, maybe people like my friend Metatron or Matt Easton or other people like that have shown you over, in which case great, if not, oh well. So I am a historical European martial artist, and I do some various types of videos on my channel, such as test cutting, I also do sparring. Very good. The fourth.
Nice.
Very sexy.
Got my hands.
I don't know.
I do weapon and armour reviews. It's still got a fair bit of heft in the chop. It's these plastic buckles. It did last a fair while, I must say. And I also do archery and other projectile weapons. You'll start to push it off to my left, and quite significantly. This did once include getting to shoot with a crossbow at the Royal Armouries Museum when I visited there, but I've never actually owned a crossbow and never had a proper chance to test it. And I thought that actually, if I could get this project funded, I will be able to afford all of the gear to actually properly test real armour, including riveted mail armour and brigandine armour, as well as I think it was 16 gauge steel breastplate and backplate, against a decent crossbow, and of course show you the results. Now, in terms of what I'm doing with regards to goals and whatnot, I'll give you sort of more of an accounting sheet, you know, the actual specifics at the end of the video, but the general summary is I'm just going to use it to afford a crossbow. I'm going to be able to get just replacements for some of the gear that will be damaged or destroyed, like things such as my riveted mail shirt, because I want to use them again. I'll probably need to buy new stuff if it, you know, gets damaged or utterly destroyed by the testing. And also some other things like in the stretch goals, it'll also include things like getting a proper slow motion camera that records more than 50 frames per second. And even if I can afford it enough, I'll actually upgrade the crossbow to have a stronger power and the proper leverage from what's called a goat's foot lever to allow me to use it, because frankly when it gets that strong I won't be able to do it just with my normal muscular strength. I'm not, well, very few people would be powerful enough just to do that by a normal foot in the stirrup and hand spanning it. Just not possible. We're going to be talking about bigger leagues. So in terms of the stuff I've got planned, I have to say, I mean, I'm not normally the sort of person who's confident. I'm normally a bit more cautious and shy about it, but I will say up front, this is probably one of the most reliable investments, the most reliable Kickstarters that I can think of. Most of them might look at things like developing certain things like games or other sorts of things, and this is an approximate value and maybe it'll get done and those sorts of things. But I absolutely say it now, and here it is on video, incontestably, if I get funded for this, it will happen. There is no if, no but, it will happen. Basically, all of the stuff that I've got in the accounting, all of the stuff in the actual goals and the stretch goals, will fully fund the items I need. And in fact, like I said earlier with things like the armour, most of it is just to replace them if they get damaged or destroyed, which I'm predicting they probably will receive some fair amount of damage, especially if I get the stronger grade of crossbow. So I've actually got even those sorts of things already. I just need the actual crossbow, its ammunition, potentially the stronger version and the lever action for it if I get that stretch goal, and of course if I can get that middle stretch goal, the special slow motion camera. But like I said, if they get funded, the things that I've promised I'll get, I will get them, and it will happen. In terms of the actual timeline, I'm going to run this campaign for about a month, see how it goes, see if I get funded or not. When it's funded, assuming it is, the actual delivery of it shall be probably around the spring or the summer, and that's merely because of the conditions and the lighting. I mean, even now, it's in the middle of the day, it should be bright as anything, but because the clouds are winter, I'm having all these lights on. I've got a lamp on there, I've got bulbs up here all going, just so you can see me properly. So if I tried to do this sort of video now, you wouldn't really get to see the action properly. It'd be too cloudy, it'd be too dark and too sort of bluish in the light. So hence I'm thinking that once it brightens up, doesn't have to be the full height of summer, just around spring when it actually gets clearer and brighter so you can see what's happening properly, then I can actually set it all up and deliver the shooting experience. So in terms of the actual armour and things, I'll be shooting, of course, a Gambeson. I've got an old Gambeson, and I'm not including that in the cost because I've already bought one for sparring. It's one that I was going to buy and did buy anyway. It's just the old one I had is perfectly functional in terms of armour. It protects well enough. The reason I didn't like it and bought a new one is simply because of the fitting. It basically has these straight arms and it doesn't really bend much, so I can't move properly in it. It protects fine, and I personally don't think it'll have any bad effect on the testing. It's just that I didn't like wearing it, simple as that. It wasn't comfortable. The next item will be my old riveted mail armour, and that is, like I say, it's proper riveted mail. It's a nice shirt and one that I do like using. I even recently have done sparring videos using it. It's great. I mean, I do like it. But of course, I'm including that in the cost because I'm imagining it will get fairly damaged or perhaps destroyed, and I'll want to buy a new one. So that's just the cost to cover that. Besides that, we have my Brigandine armour. Same scenario as my mail armour. I quite like it. It's something that I'll want to perhaps get replaced if it gets damaged or destroyed. And of course, if it is partially damaged, I can use these things for future videos, but not really wear or use them myself again. And then finally, we have the steel breastplate. I didn't like it. I'm not going to include it in the cost because it's one of those items that I'm not going to be replacing. I'm not buying plate armour for probably a fair few years yet. So that's just included free. If I get funded and I get the rest of the stuff, I'll just include that. And it's a 16 gauge steel breastplate and backplate, a proper cuirass. It's not very well tailored or fitted, but in terms of actual armour function, I think it's perfectly suitable. It is proper steel. It is, I think it's mild steel. It's certainly, durable. It's not something that's too heavy or too light. Excuse me, and it's the sort of thing that would certainly make an interesting test, especially considering its deflection. Some shots might go through more than others, perhaps. We'll see in the testing when I get funded. So that's that, and now I shall head off to my computer and start voice recording so I can get to the details on the accounting for what costs what in precise detail, if you want to hear more about that. In terms of what I'd be purchasing, firstly, from the place called Todd's Stuff, I'd be obtaining a 14th century steel crossbow, which has a base price of £650. And apart from that, I'd also be buying an additional 10 fletched bolts with cast bodkin heads. Now, it normally comes with 3 bolts, but I'll be testing it against armour, and of course, any time when the armour succeeds, there's a very strong chance the bolts will be destroyed. So I'm making sure to have a lot of spares so that I can go through quite a few without suddenly having to say, oh, sorry, I'm not testing anything anymore. Besides that, to get the more potent version, we would be looking at an extra £100 for above £350 draw weight, and the mechanism that allows me to draw that, the goat's foot lever, is £180 bonus. So we ignore that, the last two parts, the 100 and 180 if we look at the base amount, and also the £410 for the camera, special slow motion camera, if we just go for the base price. I looked at ballistics gel, but luckily I can make my own of common materials, so I'm just gonna put 0 on that. Mentioned already, 0 for the Gambeson. To replace a male hauberk, I'd probably get something better than what I originally had, But to be fair, I won't do that price. The price of what I actually originally had that I'm going to be destroying, most likely, is £230. And the Brigandine armour from Steel Mastery is £260. And of course I mentioned the breastplate will be zilch. So all in all, for the base amount to get the crossbow, the bolts, and to replace the mail and Brigandine, since they'll probably get quite damaged or destroyed, that's a cost of £1,300, which I found out in US dollars is about 1,780. For the slow motion as well, so if we go beyond the base cost and actually look at trying to get a decent camera to record even slower than my current camera can, which presently records at 50 frames per second, to actually upgrade it to a lot more, a couple of hundred frames per second, I'd need to add £410 for a GoPro Hero 6 and a special SD card that can actually take that write speed, which then takes it up to a grand total of £1,710. To have the upgrade as well on the crossbow, that of course adds the £280, so we end up with a grand total of £1,990. These are of course, the approximations. If I get fairly close to the later goals, then I might just fund the difference myself if it's just a pittance difference. Besides that, if I get a lot more than I had as my end goal, then I'll use those towards videos as well. And thank you very much for listening. See you in future videos, I guess.